How much longer can the Montreal Canadiens afford to sit on the sidelines while their roster crumbles around them? That's the burning question tonight, folks. As fresh reports emerge about the team's increasingly desperate search for offensive reinforcements, with injuries piling up like snow in a Quebec winter and a string of losses threatening to derail their season, the front office faces a critical decision point. Are they ready to act, or will they continue watching from the sidelines? Let's start with the elephant in the room. The Canadiens' injury list reads like a horror movie script. Patrick Laine, Laine Dach, and Alex Newhook have all found themselves sidelined, leaving Montreal's offensive arsenal dangerously depleted. These aren't role players we're talking about here. These are core contributors who were supposed to drive this team forward. The timing couldn't be worse. Just when the Canadiens were starting to find their rhythm, Mother Nature, or perhaps the hockey gods, decided to intervene with a vengeance. The cascade of injuries has forced the organization to pivot from a measured, long-term approach to something far more urgent. And that's where things get interesting. For months, the narrative around Montreal's front office has been singular. Find a second-line center. It was a mantra, the mission, the singular focus of General Manager Kent Hughes and President Jeff Gorton. But according to Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic, that tunnel vision has officially broadened. Here's where it gets compelling. The Canadiens are now actively exploring options at the wing position as well. This represents a fundamental shift in philosophy. Rather than remaining rigidly committed to one positional need, Montreal is adopting what LeBrun describes as a two-way approach, essentially saying, we'll take quality help wherever we can find it. This flexibility is both encouraging and revealing. It suggests that the front office recognizes the severity of their situation and is willing to adapt their strategy on the fly. That's the mark of an organization that understands the stakes. But here's where the frustration sets in for Habs fans. The Canadiens reportedly pursued veteran center David Kampf, a former Toronto Maple Leafs contributor, only to watch him sign with the Vancouver Canucks last weekend. It's the kind of miss that stings, especially when you're desperate for depth and experience. This near miss tells us something crucial. Montreal isn't just passively waiting for opportunities to fall into their lap. They're actively working the phones, making offers, and trying to improve. The problem? The market isn't cooperating. In a league where most contenders are holding tight to their assets, finding sellers willing to part with quality players is like finding a needle in a haystack. LeBrun's reporting reveals the harsh truth about the current trade landscape. Yes, Calgary and St. Louis are listening to offers. But here's the catch. The Flames front office has explicitly stated that Nazem Kadri is off the table. And Kadri? He'd be a perfect fit for Montreal's needs. This is the cruel irony of the trade deadline season. You know what you need. You know who can help you. But the other guy isn't interested in selling. It's a negotiating stalemate that could leave Montreal scrambling for Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D options. The reality is that with the Atlantic Division sitting so tight in the standings, few teams are willing to wave the white flag. Everyone believes they're still in the hunt, which means everyone's holding their best players close to their chest. Here's what's important to understand about Hughes and Gorton's approach. They're not panicking, despite the pressure. According to LeBrun, the Canadiens' leadership doesn't view this roster as a Stanley Cup contender this year. That perspective is actually refreshing in an era of short-term thinking. What this means is that any trade Montreal makes must benefit the team both immediately and in the future. They're not going to mortgage the future for a marginal improvement today. That's the mark of front office playing chess, not checkers. But, and this is crucial, they're also not content to sit idle. The organization has been actively exploring options across the league, even before the recent injury wave hit. The injuries have simply accelerated an existing process. LeBrun also noted that Montreal is exploring cheaper, less dramatic moves that could fill gaps without breaking the bank or the prospect cupboard. In a salary cap world, this kind of creativity is essential. Not every solution needs to be a blockbuster trade. Sometimes, the right depth addition at the right price can make all the difference. The challenge, of course, is finding those opportunities when everyone else is looking for the same thing. Let's talk about what's happening on the ice right now. The Canadiens have managed just one win in their last 7 games. That's not a slump, that's a crisis. Even more concerning is that despite this poor stretch, Montreal remains competitive in the Atlantic Division standings with a 10-6-3 record. That's actually the silver lining here. They're still in the fight despite playing poorly, but you can't count on luck forever. Eventually, poor play catches up with you, and the standings start reflecting reality. Tonight, the Canadiens host the Washington Capitals at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a crucial game, not just for playoff positioning, but for momentum. A win could signal that Montreal is turning a corner. A loss? That's another data point suggesting the problems run deeper than just injuries. So here's my question for you. Do you think the Canadiens should make a bold move at the deadline, or should they stick to their measured approach? Should they push all their chips to the center of the table this season, or continue building for the long term? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Montreal can turn this around with the right trade? Or are there deeper issues at play? Smash that like button if you think the Canadiens need to act now, and subscribe to stay locked in on all the latest hockey news and analysis. The trade deadline is coming, folks, and Montreal's front office is running out of time to make their move. We'll be watching closely to see what they do next.